Welcome to Sometimes There's Side Eye, a podcast about two friends having real and unfiltered conversations about dogs and people. Listen as we talk about our lives with dogs, training, behavior, share some laughs, and a whole lot of banter. I'm Heather.
And I'm Christy.
What are we talking about this week, Christy?
We are talking about traits that you think you want in your dog that can show up in different ways than you expect.
Oh, be careful what you wish for.
Yes, be careful what you wish for.
So basically, we're talking about Trin.
We're talking about all dogs because I think every dog owner has been there at some
Yeah,
point, right?
yeah. No, that's actually joking. I only have a couple things that I'm like, oh yeah, I asked for that.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how sometimes we think we really want something, and then the way it shows up in your home as a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. What made me think of this was when I love that Jackson uses his nose so much. He's very sniffy. It's fun for me to watch. I throw treats out in the park and like watch him go back and forth and find them. I love it. I love that he's good at barn hunt. I love that he's good at scent work, all of it. What I did not expect with a sniffy dog is that he also wants to inspect all the groceries and
Yep.
sniff everything. And yes, I could just put him in his kennel, but I don't know. I also feel like there's a part of me that wants to allow him to use his nose, even in ways that I didn't expect. So there's a compromise there. Because sometimes when you're walking in with a load of groceries, you're like, okay, I just need you to not be in my way right now so I can get this stuff put away. And there has to be a balance too of meeting his needs of he needs to explore all those things and me not, being annoyed with him.
Yeah, no, I agree. The sniffy dog thing is a very interesting thing. And of course, I wanted a sniffy dog myself and
Yeah.
I got it. And it's interesting to me too, because I do wonder how much of what I see is because now we all talk about things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I do think about that. But
Mhm.
a very obvious example of Trin being a super sniffy dog who will not be denied is if because we feed our dogs in their crates,
Mhm.
and Tater, bulldog, so he's a little messy sometimes. And so it is fairly often that a piece of kibble will end up between her crate and his crate.
Huh.
And so we'll come back, we'll come in the dog room, we'll let the dogs out, and we go out into the living room. And a couple minutes later, all of a sudden, I'm like, where's Trent?
Mhm.
And so I call her because sometimes she's just investigating. And if
Mm.
I call her and she will come, if I call her and she will not come, I know exactly where she is. She is standing in the dog room, staring at the half-inch space between the crates where she knows that there is one piece of kibble and
Right.
she will not leave. Like, you can tell her, Trin, go, she will not leave. And so I have gotten to the point, and I think I've said it before, that I just say, I know her nose doesn't lie, and there's something there, and I need to just go find it. And it's so funny how I've accepted that as part of life, because I'm like, I love her nose and
Right.
I love her ability. And does it really kill me? Like, I think it's really funny.
Right.
How, because she's so persistent. I mean, she dead stares at that space and is like, I'm not moving until you open this great
Yeah.
space so that I can get it. So it is interesting, but I agree with you. I also find that having a very, which this doesn't apply to you since you only have one dog, but having a very sniffy dog like Trin
Mhm.
has made me have respect for the enrichment sniff needs of my other dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I do think that, like, that is part of what keeps her well and enriched
Mhm.
and her brain doing its thing.
Yeah.
And so because I'm so enamored with that in her, I am a lot more cognizant of it with the boys.
Yeah. I will say, I think introducing the snifaris and long line walks with Lucy gave me an opportunity with Jackson to see how much he needed that.
Yeah.
Without her kind of laying that groundwork, I don't know that I would have realized how sniffy he was and
Yeah.
given him all the outlets that he needs for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And how much of a difference it made in your ability to wear him out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that brings me to like a next thought process of a lot of people want athletic dogs or dogs that
Mm,
they can run with and hike with. I know that was Lucy and me when I adopted her. I wanted a dog that could keep up with me. I was so active at the time. But I also didn't think through that I was working all day and then I was at the gym 7 days a week for I mean, at that time, I was in the gym between an hour and 3 hours a day. And that doesn't leave also, I was training for a half Ironman when I adopted her. So, I would go to work all day, come home,
and you
then
worked
get ready
outside
for
the
the
home
gym.
then. You worked
What was
outside the home.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would come home, I'd get ready for the gym, I'd go to the gym for an hour, hour and a half with travel, come back home, change into my swim gear, go to a swim practice for like an hour and a half, and then which was 2 hours once everything, once I got home. And I had to fit typically we tried to do like a 3-mile walk per day in there. Or at that time I was taking her to the dog park when I first started. So it was a lot because I what I didn't anticipate was that I was so booked myself doing other things that she couldn't participate in. And so what I really wanted was a weekend warrior dog. What I got was the athletic dog I asked for.
Yeah. So you wanted a dog who could like hang when you wanted them to hang, but
Yeah,
then what you really signed up for was a dog who could basically run an Ironman with you.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
she would run. I mean, she would run 13 miles with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, insane.
Yeah, that is such a good point. What you really wanted was like a sporty little French bulldog who will be up for anything, but then like basically be down to also Netflix and chill at any given moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I remember saying, "I want a high energy dog."
Oh, girl, that
And
has
the
never been
shelter was
me.
like, "Welcome,
Oh
come in,
yeah, they were like, "Lady, we got it all for you."
got it."
Ah. Oh, that's so funny.
But it was fun to have a dog that could train with me,
Yeah.
especially those late nights, because a lot of those runs were late nights along the canal, not my safest choice, but it was comforting to have a dog with me that could hang for 13 miles.
Yeah, that's just not me ever.
No,
Never
no,
was,
no,
never
it's
will
not
be.
me anymore.
Yeah. Something else that I think that actually brings something up for me, how because of society and whatever, it's a double-edged sword of I really love having a dog, for example, we'll use Tiago, where I he is imposing
Mm, mhm.
just from the looks.
Yes.
But then the flip side of it is I don't not anymore, but back in the day, I would get really pissed off when people were afraid of him.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, probably my first Rottweiler, not Tiago, because Tiago looks like a goofball, and people don't seem to be afraid of him. But my
He
first,
he is not as intimidating, I would say, like,
he
because
has a
he
softer.
he has a softer look. However, if he decided
Oh yeah,
that it was protection time, he would be very
yeah.
intimidating.
But when I had my first Rottweiler, Link, I used to get really mad because I'd be walking him and people would cross the street to get away
Mhm.
from us. And granted, that was a different time, but just you saying about like feeling safer with a dog and whatever, there's that whole I love the look and I love
Mhm.
that makes me feel safe.
Mhm.
But the flip side of that is like people are nervous or people are scared
Yeah.
or you have a harder time getting insurance or, all that stuff that goes along with those quote unquote dangerous breeds.
Yeah. And I know my dad would always say it's not a problem for him that people had these bad images of pit bulls in their
Yeah.
mind. He's knowing that I was out running with her up by myself or that, people weren't going to come in the backyard and try to break into my house knowing there's a pit bull there.
Yeah.
He's like, let them think she's ferocious. It's fine. No one needs to know she would hide behind you if
Yeah.
if it came down to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did say I wanted I don't know if I said it out loud or just thought it, but I did think it would be nice to have a dog that people aren't afraid of
Oh,
this round.
interesting.
People weren't afraid of Lucy towards the end because she wore pearls and she wore
She was
unicorn
gray
onesies
and
and
yeah.
yeah, and she was, slower and gray and adorable, and stigmas had changed,
Yeah.
they're still changing, but a lot of them have changed, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so people weren't nearly as afraid of her as when I first got her, but I remember when I first got her, there was a lot like, people just said such rude things all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I hope you don't plan on having children. Oh, I hope that dog got fed today so it doesn't bite my leg off.
Yeah.
Like, all these things, and I'm
Oh,
like, "That
they're gonna
is."
snap. They're gonna snap,
Yeah.
Christy.
Yeah, it's in their nature.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
come on, guys, like, come on. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so for that, I do think part of me wanted a dog that was gonna be perceived as less of a threat,
Mm.
which is ironic because nobody's afraid of Jackson, and yet he does not wanna say hi to people who do not have dogs. And
Yep.
people are like, "He's so cute, can I say hi?" And he's like, "Brr, don't say hi to us."
You don't have a dog.
"You Do you have a dog, sir? No, go away."
He literally does differentiate. It's so funny. Or like, we're not at a dog sport. I know you're not a dog person. Oh, what a
So
funny
true.
little quirk about him.
Yeah, so funny. And he was so friendly. I said like I wanted a dog who was friendly with people and friendly with other dogs. And hilarious adoption events. He's so friendly because it's an adoption event with all these other dogs.
That's so true. And it was actually 1 year ago today that
It was
lovely little Jackson had his little gotcha day. I mean, Christy didn't know it or anything,
no,
but
I it took me like 6 more months to
yeah,
get on board, but
I saw it and I was like, oh, February 26th is Jackson's gotcha day, and Tiago's birthday is the 28th.
aw,
I
I
know, we
love
should
it.
be celebrating together.
We should be. Yeah.
Oh,
Jackson's down for a celebration.
I mean, always. Tiago's
Always.
on rest, so he can't
Oh,
he's
maybe
not
after.
allowed to celebrate right now, but we'll have a celebration when he's off
Yes,
rest.
absolutely.
Something about Trin that I clearly did not calculate, which feels like such a dumbass move. I wanted a dog who had more drive, which I
Mhm.
got,
Right?
but somehow I didn't calculate that said dog would also chase my friendly lizards that come out in the summertime all
Ooh,
over
yeah.
my wall, who we really love,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that would be something that I would have to argue with said dog about and work really, really hard to train out.
Yeah.
Never put that together. It seems
Because
so
drive
obvious now.
but drive can come in a lot of forms.
Yeah,
And so I think we do put these blanket statements out like, "I want more drive." And what we probably mean is drive for certain sports, dog
yeah,
sports, the desire to do these dog sports, to do them quickly, to do them well. But drive comes in such a variety pack. So,
yeah,
yes, it shows up in sports, so you wanna drive a dog for these sports, but it also shows up in things like maybe your neighborhood cats aren't safe, or your neighborhood lizards aren't safe, or, you know, or
yeah,
maybe those are perfectly safe, but it's that they they need constant fulfillment in other areas
Yeah.
because they need this drive met.
To me, I feel like it was so obvious because our first pit bull, Layla, we got when we lived in PA. We had a large fenced in yard. We had a fairly high bunny population.
Mm,
We also had a neighborhood cat that our neighbor refused to keep inside.
mhm.
And Layla absolutely chased those things.
Yeah.
And she was quite quick about it.
Mhm,
And when we moved out here, the first place we lived did not have lizards. The
mhm,
second place we lived did have a small population, and she was starting to age. So she didn't chase them with the same vigor,
mhm.
but it was there, right?
Yeah.
And then the other house that we lived in, which was the end of her life, she at that point she was old enough that she didn't do anything, she didn't chase or anything. But I
Yeah.
don't know why I didn't put that together. I mean, she was a pretty drivey dog when it came to other things. She was super social, no problems with dogs, that way. Or she lived with a cat.
Mhm.
But I feel like living with a cat, I mean, she did chase him if he ran.
Did she? Okay.
I feel like it should have been kind of obvious to me. But I will say this, our house now, I mean, on any given summer night, we could have 20 plus lizards on the wall.
Mhm.
Like it is high lizard population. And it has been quite the task to get Trin to not dismember our lizard friends
Oh, no.
and not murder them. But here's the thing. And then what goes along with that is now every single time she goes out at night when there's lizards, I have to go with her.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it like employs this whole like management thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I asked for that drive. I got it.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you asked for no drive with Tiago or limited
Oh
drive
yeah.
with Tiago, which ended up being that he was going to be your sport dog,
Yep.
but he just didn't enjoy it because he didn't have that drive. So it showed up in a different way, not having drive.
Yeah. Well, having a drivey French bulldog versus a drivey Rottweiler is very
Sure.
different. And
Yes. Yes.
so that's why after having Tater be so fun at barn hunt and everything, it was like, oh wow, I really want that, but I don't want that in a 90-pound Rottweiler.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to do it again, I wouldn't change my
No,
decision.
because
Uh
Tiago's perfect.
Okay, if I was to get another one, I guess I should say, because Tiago's perfect, we're not changing that. If I were to get another one, I would make the same decision
Hmm.
because I mean, I'm not as young as I used to be. My body is broken. Like, I don't need to have
Yeah.
a 90-pound Rottweiler that's gonna be. I mean, Tiago is strong.
Oh,
I
he's
mean,
so strong.
he has no drive.
Yeah.
So I don't need all of that.
No. Mm-mm.
No.
I think another area that this comes out is when we're looking for dog friendly dogs too,
Oh, this is a good one.
because it can come out and everybody wants, no, not everybody. A lot of people want a dog that's dog friendly in a very like lax social environment. And not necessarily that they need to be socialized. So I think this comes out in a lot of different ways. So one, sometimes dogs needs go unmet when you have a dog friendly dog who is only living by themselves or only has access to their own family dogs.
Hmm.
Imagine being a social butterfly and being an extrovert and only ever getting to hang out with your husband or wife.
I literally crawl the walls. Like
Yeah,
it's not good for me.
right.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what we do when we're like, well, but we've given them a playmate.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you gave them one other dog to play
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's enough, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
I think the other, like, one thing that came out that I was not expecting is Jackson can be reactive to other dogs because he's so excited about them
Yes.
being in the park or near him, and he can't get to them, so he's barking out of frustration and trying to get to them, and so it's been an unexpected curve with training.
Yes.
Curveball?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It-
I don't think we foresaw happening
right.
because I didn't expect him to be reactive to other
Mm.
dogs on leash because he loves them so much.
Right. So, and I think that this is why I really love the sort of change of reactivity to like the big feelings thing,
Yeah,
because it really is big feelings.
it's big
The
feelings.
reason for the big feelings is different and might be super
Mhm.
layered and complex,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it truly is big feelings.
Mhm.
And I I like that sort of shift.
Mhm.
And it is interesting in your case because you were very focused on, I want a dog social dog, and you got that. But
Mhm.
then if
In
you are
spades.
not, yeah, but if you are not giving him what he thinks he needs in that moment,
Mhm.
right? And he sees another dog, it's becoming this huge frustration display.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have this reactive dog and you're like, what the hell? This is not what I signed up for. Like, you're supposed to like dogs. But
Yeah,
but he does. He loves
he
dogs,
does.
but he's
Yeah.
so into seeing those dogs
Yeah.
that he can't get to it.
Yeah, and he has big feelings about that.
He does.
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of? Something completely different that Trin does that is big feelings.
What's that?
What does Trin do when we first get to barn hunt?
Oh, she
Is
screams.
she I need to record it for everyone because it is this guttural, like, I'm here. Like, it is just this ridiculous whole thing that she does. It doesn't
Mhm.
last long.
Mm.
And it's like on our first couple like walks around the property.
Yeah.
And I've realized now that she does this pretty much at any dog event. It's like, oh, okay, I'm here. Like, this is me saying I'm here.
Yeah.
And I truly think that it's the same as Jackson being like,
Yeah.
I'm so excited and I can't get to a dog. I have these big feelings. It's a frustration burst. And Trin, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Big feelings. We got dogs with big feelings.
We
Little
do.
bodies and big feelings.
That's so true. That is so true.
Oh. Yeah.
Something else that I think that struck me when I knew we were gonna kind of talk about this episode and like talk about these things that we wish for, and I was joking around being like, ha ha ha, be careful what you wish for. We're gonna talk about Trin, like it was gonna be negative, but actually no. I took her to Home Depot and Lowe's last week to run errands, and I thought it was really interesting as I was walking around with her because the experience with Tiago going to Home Depot
Mhm.
is social butterfly.
Yeah.
This dog, I mean, he wants to like smell his environment, whatever. But if he has the choice of smelling a bag of fertilizer or saying hi to a person, there is no contest. Absolutely no contest, right?
Which is funny because there's also no contest with Jackson. It's just that the fertilizer wins, not the person.
Which is Trin,
Right.
right? And so I was like walking along, and with Tiago, I have to a lot of times, not as much now that he's older, but in his adolescence, which is the same age that Trin's at, I was constantly working. I would have to do, you don't get to greet everybody, you don't get to say hi
Yeah.
to everybody because it had become a problem, right? Because I had worked so hard to make my quote unquote mean dog be friendly, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
that I went too far the other side of the spectrum. And also it's naturally who he is. But
It is.
um
Yeah.
it was like a job for me. We would go to Home
Mhm.
Depot, we would train, we would do like this whole structured thing because he was constantly like, can I say hi to you? Can I say hi to you? Can I say hi to you?
Mm.
So it struck me as I'm walking along the stores with Trin that she's motoring ahead in
Mhm,
her little, French bulldog, I'm the king of the world way, but
mhm,
she's not motoring to people. She's
mhm.
motoring to take in the environment, to smell all the things, to visit, jump on this thing and run over here and like climb into this bench or this shelf and just be curious about the environment.
Yes.
And I did not one single time have to say to her like, "Oh, come on, move on," because she was trying to greet a person.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. In fact,
Yeah.
I said to 2 people who wanted to greet her, I was like, "Don't be offended if she completely disregards you." And
Right.
she basically did. And I was like walking along, and I love that Tiago loves the people because he gives people so much joy. And
Mhm.
and when people approach him and want to visit with him, it's because they're truly enamored with the breed a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so they're really invested and they're into it, right? Whereas with Trin, it's like, I like that she doesn't want to run up to people because she's just going to be like, I don't actually want to see you.
Right. She got other things to do.
Yeah, she's busy. So I actually didn't realize that her little independent, sort of courageous, confident self
Mhm,
and snippy self
mhm,
would breed this dog who is super easy to take out and about
mhm,
because she's not invested in the people. I can go in, I can do my shit. She's along on the end of the leash. We can like mess around a little bit, do a little training, and we leave. Whereas
mhm.
with Tiago, it's like a whole endeavor. Like we're gonna meet all the people, we're gonna say hi to
Yeah.
everybody. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
That is not something that I ever thought about.
Yeah, and I think being curious, I think a lot of people say, like, they want a smart dog, and I
Mm,
think curiosity comes along with that a
mm.
lot of times, and then we're like, "Oh, that's annoying, we gotta squash that." And so,
Oh,
again,
that's
giving those
interesting.
outlets for them to be curious in different places, like,
Mhm.
be curious at the park, be curious at Home Depot in the shelving, all these places where we might normally be like, "Hey, it's time to behave, like, stop being curious." But when we're outside of our house, if we have a smart dog who is curious about things, guess where they're gonna be curious about things? Outside of our house.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
I just think it's really, really interesting that Trin and Tiago are the most confident dogs
Mhm, mhm.
that I have ever owned.
Yeah.
And it looks completely different.
So different. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so interesting to me.
Yeah. I feel like Jackson is so confident in some areas where people are like, "Oh, well, Jackson will be fine. He's so confident." But then in other situations, it's his curiosity that forces him to be
Oh,
confident.
yes.
Like he's like, "Oh man, that looks scary, but I'm so curious about it. I really want to explore it." And and you can see him going back and forth. That Chihuahua and that that German Shepherd are
Yep.
fighting within him.
Yep. Yep.
"Run away. No, be brave." And so it's that curiosity that allows him to be confident in certain
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah. I think that that's true of the bulldog too.
Yeah.
So people at barn hunt are always very shocked to hear that Tater is fearful and has noise issues at
Oh,
home.
yeah. Yeah.
Because at barn hunt, he
Mhm.
is balls to the wall.
Yeah.
He does not show fear
He
in
is so
anything.
fun to watch.
Yeah. And it's just like the love of that game that
Mhm.
he owns that place. He knows, like, this is my place. These are my people. This is my
Right.
game. This is the thing I do. And
Yeah.
he is a completely different dog.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. It is.
Hmm.
And it's interesting how certain environments can build confidence as
Yeah.
well or comfort in a dog.
Yeah.
I know when we were doing the sport, the barn hunt sport episode, Finn's owner talked about
Oh
that
yeah, he
Finn is
said.
not social outside of barn hunt. I got to meet Finn for the first time. You would never guess that that was not the
Yeah.
most confident social dog you've ever met in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, I think she said when he was an adolescent, he really struggled, and then barn hunt, like, really brought him out of his shell and
Yeah.
helped build that confidence. Finn is interesting too because Finn is a very quiet, confident dog.
Yes.
He is not, he is no fuss, no muss. He
Yeah.
is, um he's just so stable, but no show. Like,
Yeah.
n no. He's a I don't mean no show as in, like, you're not struck by it. I just mean, like,
Right.
it's like this air of confidence that he's like, "I don't need to show off."
Yeah, it comes naturally. It's who he is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not trying to prove that he's confident, he
Nope.
just is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's funny.
yeah, and, I think that brings me back to even in being dog social, there's ways that that can come out. Like Lucy was so confident in some areas, like with other dogs, that helped. I don't know how many dogs I have in my life that could not be around other dogs with resources
Mm.
except for Lucy,
Mhm.
where she could be around a dog with a bone who in their own home would attack the other dogs for
Yep.
no reason, just because there's dropped food or a bone or whatever available, and Lucy could lay right next to them and they were fine.
I always
There's
found
this
that so interesting.
It's fascinating, and yet Jackson doesn't have that quality to
Yeah.
him at all.
Yeah. Yeah. She
But
just
he is more overall dog friendly. I would say, like, there's no doubt that he's gonna love every dog he
right.
meets, whereas Lucy's like, "I'll tolerate every dog I meet, but I might not love them."
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
One more thing that I thought of is I wanted a drive-your dog, and in my mind, right, wrong, or indifferent, clearly wrong. I thought, "Oh, but how much mess can a little drivey dog get into?" Hello, have you met a Jack Russell? No,
That's
but,
exactly
like,
what I
I
was
know,
thinking.
like, it was like, "I need French bulldog." Um, and so I remember, like, how many things did Trin chew? And oh,
Mm,
remember she chewed the corner of my dog training book, Don't Shoot the Dog, which is so ironic.
so
Um,
funny.
and she destroyed papers in the office. Like if I would leave her behind the baby gate with Tiago to like go to the bathroom or like
Right.
go make lunch, whatever. She's like
Yeah.
ripping shit apart and blah
Yep.
blah blah. And I suppose there's the argument to be made then she needed to do that and she needed enrichment, whatever. She wasn't ready
Yeah.
to be left. I mean, I know all the things, people, but how I did not make that calculation, I do not know. But I did not.
Right.
And so it's interesting to me how you love to razz me about how Tiago was such a perfect puppy and such an easy puppy,
Mhm.
and how you're like, that was just Tiago.
Right.
But like, how much of that is that Tiago was also a low drive dog,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that definitely plays into it.
Also, he's perfect.
Also, he's perfect because you chose a perfect low drive dog.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I managed to, just sort of, like, ignore that calculation, but I sure as hell did. And I will say that, in my opinion,
Mhm.
drive your so this is what I say to puppy clients: confident puppies will become the best dogs
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you don't have to you can't teach that genetic material, right? You can build
Right.
confidence, you can help them
Yeah,
along,
of
but
course.
what it is at their core. And so, although confident puppies and smart puppies can be really hard, what
So
you
hard. Yeah.
get later in life is so worth it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
look at Trin now, she's gonna be 18 months,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I see these beautiful moments of her understanding things in life and putting
Mhm.
things together like, oh, this is a trade off. I want to do that, so I need to do this, right? There's all these moments where I see her sort of making calculations on her own.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's a really, really awesome benefit of like a really smart, confident dog. And I recognize that. Although the
Yeah.
first year was hell on wheels, uh,
Mhm.
I I recognize that those were things that I maybe didn't calculate properly, but now on the other side, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that brings up a good point of sorry if you hear squeaking. My my high energy dog is here.
Jackson has words to say about this.
Yes. Um, I think that brings up a good point of that things that we wish for in a dog can look very different. The same personality trait can look very different in how it comes out.
Ooh. Yeah. And
Yeah.
depending on breed tendencies,
Yes.
like that's all factors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are all factors in. And so when you're thinking about what you may want in a dog, think through how it may show up in your life in different areas and
Yeah.
make sure that you're prepared for that. But also, I would say when it shows up in unexpected areas where it doesn't feel super convenient,
Yeah.
remember that you wanted this trait and why you wanted it in other
Yeah.
areas.
You should probably have a friend like Christy to just remind you, like,
Every- Everyone should have a friend that can remind
you
you.
surely signed up for this and it's showing up in ways unexpected, but also like you might want to take a moment. No, seriously though, it's such a valid point because some of those things can show up in really difficult ways.
Yeah.
And I think if you are a listener of this podcast, you listen to me with my first year with Trin, living that as openly and as authentically as I could for all of you. And it kind of makes me sad. Like Christy went to dinner with a friend and a listener, and she said, "Oh, does Heather like her dog now?" And I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like, but I really I it looking back on it now, like it's this episode is very relevant to
Mhm.
how we barely survived our first year by the freaking skin of our teeth. And I had
I
to
know you
like,
guys are thriving.
yeah, but I needed the reminder to be like, be careful what you wish for, and like you really did ask for these things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now I love it because she's kicking ass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's the perfect little dog.
it's true.
Perfect little drivey thing.
I when we met how many moons ago, I can't say that we would have been like, "Oh, in 10 years, we'll be like, oh, our perfect little dogs."
Oh, no. There's no way. We would have laughed you out of a room,
And yet here we are.
and here we are with our little dogs,
Yep.
which I know most people would be like, "Chrissy, you don't have a little dog, you have a medium-sized dog," but he feels very little.
I mean, it's like when people say to me that Tiago is an extra large dog, and I'm like, he is not. Like, he is
He
not.
is, but yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's all
not as
relative.
extra large
It's
as he could
yeah,
be.
it's all relative.
Yeah, exactly. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and share us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, come on over to Instagram and engage with us at Sometimes There's Side Eye.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.